See, I complained about the long intro, and now that we've got the short intro, I'm like, man, it's too damn short. But it is what it is. And you know what time it is? It is Wednesday freaking night. And guess what? Rodolfo, you are back at number one, man. Rodolfo, you have not been on a podium all week long, but here you are. Back at number one as we're waiting for people to get in. I actually probably need to retweet this thing real quick. Hold on 1 second. I gotta tell people, here we go. For all the followers out there on Twitter. But you only get a 10-second intro, and the thing and your tweet from Orangebloods pops up after 15 seconds. It makes for like an awkward 30 seconds here as I try to do this. Hold on 1 second. And I got to figure out a gift. And now we're done. Now it is. Thank you, guys. What is going on? Happy freaking Wednesday to you guys. May the 10th, as we are just steamrolling ahead in this year, man. And I'm super excited about it. We are kind of getting into that summertime, vacation time. I don't know what you guys are getting ready to do for vacation. I'm probably going to hit up a couple of different things this summer. I'll be doing a couple of traveling, a little Mexico, a little Destin, Florida. I'm be doing a bunch of little things. But as I always say, man, look, it's Wednesday night. You know what time it is. It's time for your Drunk Uncle Sports Podcast. And I am your host, your Drunk Uncle Alma Richardson, in a fantastic mood. I have so much to tell you guys. I've got a story to tell that is going to be something that all of y'all are going to have to remember. Blake doesn't even know what's coming. Nobody knows what's coming. I'm going to tell you guys some story about some stuff I've been through this week. But I have a couple of different things. First of all, please hit like. Please hit subscribe. If you never subscribed to the channel. For those of you who asked last week where the feather was, the feather's right here, because no one does it better unless Drunk Unc rocks the feather. And this show is brought to you by my main man, Eric Sells Homes DFW. My main man, El Presidente. Listen, if you're looking for a home in the DFW area, you've got to hit up my main man, Eric Sells Homes DFW.com. Listen, you're looking to buy a home, you're looking to sell a home. Now is the time. School is about out. It's time to get on your relocation on and try to figure out what you're going to do. That was you, Wayne, asking about the feather. I thought about you when I started to get dressed, man. I want to let you know Unc got a feather, baby. Don't sleep on Unc's fedora game. I've got it, man. But also he's got that thing for you as well. So make sure you hit up my main man, Eric Sells Home DFW. It's now the time, man. Now's the time to go ahead and get that whole thing done, man. So I hope you guys are doing good. I hope you guys are having a great. All right, so listen. I am going to tell you guys a story. I've been dying to tell this story. I've only told a couple of friends the story. I'm going to tell you guys a story about some crazy shit that happened this week. All right, you guys are going to hopefully enjoy this. And by the way, my guys Tom G and El Presidente will be on the show a little bit later today, because we're going to have nothing but positivity. Tired of some of this negativity, man. I am living a life of positivity. That's just what I want to exude. I want to have. Like, I just want positivity and stuff like. So I'm going to make sure we're going to do a show that's positive. But I got something to tell you guys. You guys, I know. Hold off on the football talk for a second, because this is Unc's show. Pour yourself a drink. Get ready for the story. Are you guys ready? Okay, so check this out. So Unc, or where I live, right? Unc's got, how do I describe it? I don't want to sound bougie or nothing like that, but I got, let's say, a separate detached pad from Unc's house, okay? And, it's fully furnished and all that kind of stuff. So I let my boy use it. My boy works on the oil rigs and stuff, and so he comes in, so we worked out a little arrangement. Just good story. Worked out a little arrangement where he comes in, you know, guys come into oil rigs, they work on a rig for like, you know, 3 weeks straight or something like that, and then come back for about a week and a half. And then, you know, they chill out. So I'm like, you know, you know, shoot me a little cash here. You know, you can use that, no problem. You know, yeah, you know, my house or Unc's house. You know, don't matter, right? So on Monday night, my boy decides at around like 11:30 or so, and Desi decides that he's gonna go and get himself a little Whataburger. So he goes out, gets himself a little Whataburger, goes out, this and that, get on the line, and then he comes back into my community. And at that time, police, they go ahead and they pull over my boy. They pull him over. He's only 2 blocks away from my house. Only 2 blocks away. So close. Listen to this. So, and I feel bad for him, by the way. So, you know, they pull him over because the tint on his window is a little bit too dark, right? A little bit too dark. So they got an issue with the tint. So then they go and the first cop comes and okay, everything's well, cool. Second cop comes, you know, starting again, and then the third cop comes, right? He tells me the story, right? So there's somehow, some way they see that my dude, he's got like, you know, those little like mini bottles of, you know, like a vodka, Tito's or whatever, like that, you know, those things are that you get at the store, the little mini ones that they sell on the planes. So they see one on right around like the passenger seat and stuff like that. So they ask my man, like, hey, you going to do your field sobriety test for us? So no, he had the Lakers game had already been on. So he had already been sipping just a little bit, but he wasn't quite sure where he was. He didn't feel like he did anything wrong. He felt good about enough to drive, but he's like, man, I don't know where I'm at. So he's like, man, I'm not going to do all that. So they're like, listen, man. They're like, hey, we got a problem here. So he's like, look, man, I stay right around the corner. He's like, you know, my brother got a house right there. It's right around the corner. And they said, so this is what they say. They said, we'll go to the house, we'll knock on the door, and if he opens the door, unless it comes out, hey man, he can drive the car back home. You'll be free to go. I'm like, so then he's like, bet. So at midnight, they're knocking on the door, banging on the door. I mean, just like the police bang, right? Gets out. I got kind of a glass door, right? And I can see POLICE. Here's one thing Unc knows. If the police are knocking at your door at midnight, it ain't for a $10,000 giveaway. They are not there to give away any money. They are there to take somebody to jail. And Unc was like, it ain't gonna be me. I'm like, I don't know what they here for. I don't know what they want. But I know what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to open up that door. So they begging, right? Begging. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. All I know, and I'm like, maybe something happened with my boy. I'm like, I'm not going to say nothing. I'm just going to stay in this here. I'm not even by the door. I'm not hey, what's going on? Like, I'm just like, hey, I'm behind. Like, hey, like this. Peeking behind, trying to see what happened, you know. But I'm making sure they can't see me, right? Making sure they can't see me, making sure they can't see Unc, right? So making sure they can't see me. So eventually they go back to him. Again, I don't know what's going on. They didn't call me or nothing like that. They're like, hey, your man didn't answer. So you gotta go. And so they go ahead and lock up my boy. They go ahead and lock him up. And so he gets locked up. It is on a Monday. So and I didn't go back to sleep for a while, right? So he gets locked back up. He goes in on a Monday. He's Travis County, right? Better than Williamson County. So he's booked at like 4:00 in the morning, right? And so I'm almost done with the story. And so which is weird because this not the second time. I had another one of my friends who was leaving my community as well. And as soon as he got out, like he got pulled over and he had like a little warrant for his arrest. But that time they called me And so I was able to go. He had like his kids with him, so I was able to go pick up the kids. Like you probably like, Unc, who you be hanging out with? It's just my family. Sorry, dog. We all got family. So anyway, so he doesn't he doesn't post a bond until like that night. They don't post a bond until like 6:30 or something like that at that night. And then I can't get a bondsman in there because it's not really his permanent address, so on and so forth. So no bondsman is really working with me. So I'm like, man, he's gonna have to stay in there. But luckily they did a personal bond, so he was able to get out. But then last night, his girl takes him back to my house, but then he doesn't have his key because his car's in impound. So then he banging on my door at 1:30 in the morning. Now this time I didn't see police on there. So this time I'm like, okay, I'll go. I can look. I'm looking behind. I'm peeping. I was like, oh, okay, that's my boy. All right. He's finally out. I figured he'd be out right now. So I was head ahead. And so for the last 2 nights, Ugg has been like someone's been banging on the door in the middle of the night. And I'm just optimistic. I don't know what the hell just happened there. Very, very optimistic and hopeful that tonight on Wednesday after I do the show with the boys in bed, no one's going to bang on the door tonight. Now, fingers crossed. So I felt bad to a certain degree that I could have prevented it from him happening for this whole thing. But then I was like, hey, I didn't know. And listen, like I said, no $10,000 giveaways whenever the police are banging on your door in the middle of the night. Nothing good is coming from that interaction. So I know I didn't do anything, and I know what I'm going to do. I want to stay my ass in the house. So that happened, and I had to share that thing with you. Luckily, he's got like a misdemeanor class B. So for him, that thing will probably go away pretty quickly. But being the G that he was, 11 o'clock this morning, he was like, man, I need me a drink. I was like, well, hell, I guess go ahead and press your luck. So anyway, that happened. All right, let's say one more thing. A couple of weeks ago told you guys, whether it was on this show or whether it's on the modcast, I can't remember, or one show. I do too many. I do 4 a week. It all starts to run together. But told you, man, Casey Thompson to FAU is the thing that makes sense. That's what I told you, right? I was like, Casey Thompson to FAU makes a lot of sense. I was like, it just made all the sense in the world. And when people are like, oh, there was other programs that were looking at him, and I was like, I don't know, just makes the most sense to me. I said, be on the lookout for that. And sure enough, Casey Thompson goes to FAU. Listen, Casey Thompson is not a Longhorn, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time as relates to this conversation and talking about him. But it's like in his 6th year. And, it's the thing about Casey that for a lot of guys who kind of go into this like nomad world of trying to find happiness, transferring, and, he transferred, obviously he was at Texas. He went apparently at one point to Oklahoma, tried to enroll in classes over there, then came back to Texas. Then he was here for a little bit. Then, of course, he transferred to Nebraska. Now he's at FAU. And I get the whole FAU thing like that. That's going to be on a silver platter for him. And he'll start. There'll be probably no competition ahead of him, around him. He knows Tom Herman's playbook fairly easily with the Matt Rule thing. He's been injured. So, Tom will say, you can play for me. Matt Rule may or may not. So I get it. I'm just hopeful as it relates to Casey that he finds his happiness. And look, I get it. Look, Case, I get it. You've got an entire lifetime to be an adult and pay bills. So if you want to be that guy who's like 24 on campus, I don't know how old Casey is at this point, 23 years old, something like that. I get it. Go ahead, continue to live your dream and see if it happens for you. Live a life with no regrets. I get it. I hope it goes well for him. It'll be interesting. Casey is there. We got Hudson Card, over in Purdue. It'll be interesting in that debate between the two, who ends up quote unquote winning. Because you remember that debate a few years ago when it was Tyrone Swoops versus Shane Buechele. And, years ago, I was the one that, infamously reported that the one key phrase, it swoops and it ain't even close by a key source that said it to me. And of course, that ended up being something that a week later, every single news outlet reported that Swoops was probably going to win the job. And then when Shane Buechele gets a job, every single news outlet is like, I don't know. We never reported that. That was Orangebloods. I'm like, wait, that was all of y'all. All of y'all did that. Nonetheless, Shane Buechele wins the job and Texas still goes 5-7. So I don't even know if there was a winner when it was all said and done. We'll see what happens as relates to those guys. I see you, Aaron, talking about Brennan Thompson as a Sooner. We definitely talked about that before. So, but listen, man, I'm glad to see everyone is in the chat. I see all these guys there. Let me. When I started thinking about the show today, let's start the transition a little bit. When I started thinking about the show today, what I wanted to talk about tonight, I am in this realm of optimism. And in a realm where I want to be optimistic about this upcoming season. And I'm not really in this realm in May where I'm willing to dwell in negativity and tell myself all the things that Texas can't do. And one of the reasons why isn't just a mindset for me, isn't just something I'm trying to talk myself into and trying to make myself believe into something, but it really is some things that I believe that have been happening behind the scenes, things that we've been able to see, where I tell myself, I'm not just saying it because I want to believe it. This ain't no church and we got to speak it into existence and have mustard seed faith and all that kind of stuff. And then, of course, drop a huge offering. But this is something that I honestly believe is true. So now when I've got the opportunity, and I see the haters here in the comments too. So this is great. Come on in, haters. Haters pay the bills too. I don't even listen. You guys trip on haters. Haters pay the bills as well. So I'm okay for people to come in here and say they're going to choke, but I don't believe they're going to choke. I believe Texas is going to put the choke on other people, though. I believe that we've seen enough in this offseason, not only in this offseason, but actually really enough since Steve Sarkisian is arrived here that's made me believe that, you know what, this year might be different than other years. And I really fully believe that there's proof to show that this year is going to be different. So we're not doing any negativity tonight. In fact, we're going to do something totally different. We're going to be really positive. And so I brought my guys back in. It's been a while, but I brought it back. I'm bringing back in Tom G. I'm bringing back in El Presidente, and we are going to have a conversation about why we believe that the Longhorns can have a championship season. El Presidente, Tom G, it has been a while, but how are my two favorite guys doing?
Go ahead, Eric.
I'm good. Life is good. Real estate market's on fire. Busier than sin. I got one daughter moving home from college next week, so that's never fun when they come back into the house and got to get them resettled. And I got one kid that of all the schools he had to pick and he had to commit to, my money is about to go across the Red River again, and my son's going to Oklahoma. You want to talk about getting kicked in the face. I mean, just kicked in the face.
You can't disown them, right? Yeah. But you've got to be disappointed in your parenting, El Presidente. Like, you have to look in the mirror and ask yourself, where did you go wrong?
Oh yeah, I ask myself that a lot lately, and just I love them. I'm proud of them. That was the one school that he identified last January, and December because, the college enrollment game and the college applying game has changed completely. And it was between there, Rice, and Arkansas. And all I know is we have a Sooner in the house.
What is he majoring in?
He's gonna do nursing. So that that's one of the top schools. TCU was. TCU said you can come, but you can change majors. I was like, well, we're not going to do that. So, good.
You didn't want to go to a community college?
Yeah, I would. I told him, I'll buy you a brand new truck. You want to go to community college for 2 years? That didn't work.
Oh man. So let me ask you this real quick, Tom G. And El Presidente. And I want to check in Tom G. real quick. So are you going to be okay where your son is going to sit on the OU side in Red River and you are on the other side?
He's going to be lucky if he has gas money to get home. My wife is all excited and she's like, I've already booked our hotel. We're going to stay in Oklahoma City for this game, and this game. And I looked at her, I go, have you lost your mind? I might go to Parents Weekend, but that's about it for me. And then,
because she's a TCU person.
Yeah, she's a TCU alum.
So she doesn't grasp this, but I think they're really just effing with you, El Presidente. I mean, I think I'm convinced. I'm going to move on. I'm convinced, El Presidente, right now she actually wants a divorce from you.
Yeah,
and she's just finding ways to push your buttons for this shit to happen. TCU games.
Yeah.
Your son's going to Oklahoma. She's just doing enough where you're just gonna pull the rip, and then and the next thing you know, she takes half your shit. I'm just convinced. Tom G, how are you been?
Hey, I'm doing great. Eric, I don't know, man. When my kids were looking at college, I just told them, look, you go Oklahoma A&M off the books. If I'm paying for it, that ain't an option, right? And they picked two different ones. I will tell you, my sister is a registered nurse, and so she went the route that your son is going. And so very, very noble profession, and I wish him all the best.
Yeah, I'm excited for him. He's a good kid. I love him to death. I wish he was a little bit more snarky like me, but that boy loves Jesus, and God bless him. When he gets across that border, he's gonna see a different world up there.
I mean, at Baylor would have been better. I mean, like this, if he loves Jesus, Baylor would have been better. TCU, this is
he wanted the easier academic school. That's all it was.
Clearly. I didn't want to be. It's where I am with this, and we're going to get into these 5 things in a second. But I don't want to be disrespectful to you and your family and your son, but he is going to OU. So then I just don't know I don't know. I'm just going to let it go. All right. So
that's what I'm trying to do too. That's 2 of us.
All right. So so one of the things that we've been tasked to, and one of the things I asked the guys to do is, to get 5 reasons to be optimistic about the upcoming season. I'm going to start off by giving you my 5. Okay. And then we'll just kind of talk about them and look, we don't want to make this a 2-hour show. So I'll give you my 5 kind of in a condensed version. Then I want to, we'll talk about that a little bit. Then I want to hear you guys. So take mental notes of my 5. So what I've come up with, when I tasked the guys to come up with is 5 reasons to be optimistic about the upcoming season. That's one of the things I think about. And I want you guys in the chat to think about 5 things to get optimistic about the upcoming season, because I would like some interaction with you guys as well. But I'm going to give you my 5, and we'll start from there. The first one for me, it starts with Quinn, but my optimism around Quinn is that Steve Sarkisian finally has a quarterback who will be a 2-year starter that's within his system. And when you think about it, he really hasn't been able to have that. He had the kind of Hudson Card thing, then it was Casey Thompson, and that kind of really didn't end up yielding a lot when it was all said and done. Then last year it was Quinn. So he's had 3 quarterbacks within the last 2 years. And then this is going to be like the year where he finally has a quarterback that's done it for the past 2 years. But the thing that, I get excited about as relates to Quinn is, and I've talked about this before, when you hear about the renewed enthusiasm, the work ethic, the work that he's putting in. And then when you hear Sark giving a guy like Quinn his seal of approval, Sark didn't give Hudson last year or Quinn last year his seal of approval. It ended up being a QB battle that was supposed to last, into training camp and so on and so forth. And there was some questions about who was even going to be the starter. But to me, him having Quinn year 2, having his feet wet, I think that is important. One of the things that Aaron just said and kind of stole a little bit of my thunder, but I will go to the number 2 would be the playmakers on offense. That might be something that I think all of us will probably have. They might, as far as that is concerned. But when I think about Xavier Worthy, when I think about A.D. Mitchell and Jordan Whittington, I think about Isaiah Nayer being able to come back healthy. We kind of forget the player that he was at Wyoming and what we expected him to be last season, but it just didn't happen because of the injury. You add in the Jonte Cook, you add in the DeAndre Moore, you still have Jatavian Sanders. I don't know if there's an opposing defense that can stop this offense on any given play. You can't double one guy. Forget that. Throw that out the book. So you're going to have to choose your poison. And at that point, I just feel like you're going to be at the mercy. So I go with that one for me, the playmakers on defense. When I think about on offense, when I think about the defense portion of it, it's interesting because we do these modcasts and these questions, and they start about, with Texas, and what about Texas on defense, and what about Texas on defense? I had to look at it back up. Texas was ranked 2nd in the Big 12 in defense last year, in total defense. So for all the shit that people talk about as relates to Texas and what's going to happen with their defense and who's going to be the guy that steps up on defense, you got to realize the defense actually wasn't that bad last year. It actually was the number 2 total defense in the entire Big 12. So, you talk about, I don't think it's the toughest task and the toughest reach to say, find a way to replace Moro Ojomo or Keandre Coburn. I don't think any of us were looking at those guys, no disrespect, as generational talents. We're not looking at that to say, how do you replace Bijan? We're like, ooh, that's tough. When you say Moro, we say Keandre, you're saying to yourself, okay, how do you replace 2 good guys? And you say, I don't think it's a far stretch to say, guys like Byron Murphy and T'Vondre Sweat could be able to fill that role. I don't feel like that bridge is too long to walk, as opposed to how do you replace a Bijan. My last 2, for me, Texas only having, this is number 4, by the way, only 2 true road games this season. I still think is a benefit for them when you only have to really get on a plane 2 times, and that's going to be Alabama, and then that's going to be Iowa State at the end of the year. And you tell me you've got 10 games in the state of Texas, 10 games that are within driving distance for this team. I would say to yourself that's pretty good. I thought the Big 12 would be screwed. But at the end of the day, he didn't screw Texas, but they didn't. So at the end of the day, that ended up being a thing. And the last one, number 5 for me, is when I look at Texas and the teams that they're playing, I feel like every team that they're playing has major question marks. I don't look at a team that says, oh my God, how are you going to beat that team? Even when we talk about a team like in Alabama. Again, we've talked about this before. El Presidente and Tom G. We talked about after that Alabama game. We did that spring game. We didn't look at that thing and said, "Oh my God, look at those quarterbacks! Look how amazing they are." You're like, man, these quarterbacks ain't good. So that you've got Texas that at least has Quinn. That's that at least he's played in games. Jalen Monroe, I've pointed this out before, threw 3 interceptions versus Texas A&M. We saw that game. He didn't look good. He looked horrible. And so if you can't tell me, Alabama's going to be this huge favorite when Quinn doesn't even give up the ball like that, knock on wood. But we've never seen Quinn just have a meltdown of interception after interception after interception. Every team that the Texans is going to face has question marks. Kansas State, how do you replace those guys that'll be there? Oklahoma, had a Marvin Mims drafted, running back gone. Like, why did they replace some of those guys? Every single team. Iowa State is a very young team. Oklahoma State had a bunch of guys that went into the transfer portal. Like, what does Baylor have coming back? TCU lost a ton of guys to the NFL. 8 guys off that team got drafted. There's nothing on Sonny Dykes' resume that tells us he can do that again. First of all, there's nothing that told us he could do it one time, let alone repeat it. And then, so I look at that and say, well, yeah, maybe Texas doesn't have every little component, but I don't feel like everybody else does. So those, for me, are my 5 reasons. El Presidente, quickly just go with you. Is there any one of those that kind of stuck out with you that resonates, that you say to yourself, you know what, that makes some sense?
Your Quinn Ewers, that one was the big one that jumped out for me. 2 of them did that in the defense that you talked about it, because those are the 2 I had on my 5. With Quinn having a year under his belt, last year kind of felt like he was just a raw, true freshman being thrown to the fire, to say the least. He left high school early. He went to Ohio State. He didn't play. He transfers to Texas. Immediately he is the starter here at Texas. And last year was the growing pains. So, for me, you jumping on Ewers as a year under his belt in a wide open Big 12 with no clear-cut favorite other than, the national hype train that's going on right now of Texas. And, hey, all the stars are aligning. So I definitely agree with you on Quinn Ewers in the talk that is being talked about, him being quarterback 1 and kind of the leading quarterback for the Big 12 going into next year. I can't really name you another quarterback that I can. The Kansas quarterback is a pretty good one that's coming back too. But, other than those 2, I can't. There's no one else in this league that I fear like, those 2.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Tom G?
Yeah, no, Anwar, I clearly aligned with you also around the seasoned year 2 starter and the maturity that Quinn has developed over the last 12 months. Now, one thing you didn't mention about Quinn, which I don't know if it ever come to life, but I'm convinced that even when he came back from the injury, I don't know if he was ever really 100% or ever really felt comfortable the rest of the season. I think coming into this year, the injury is really behind him. He's fully healthy. And I don't think there's anything either physical or emotional that is going to hinder him going forward for year 2.
Cool. All right, Tom, you've got a list. Why don't we start?
I have a list. All right.
You've got a list.
I got a list.
I want you to give Longhorn Nation 5 reasons to be optimistic about this upcoming season. 5 reasons, Tom G.
All right.
This could be a championship season.
Absolutely.
And championship is kind of a vague term. It could be a lot of championships. But go ahead, Tom.
I'll tell you what, I'm not going to dwell on number 1 because number 1 was all about Quinn, and I think we've hit that one really hard already.
Okay.
Number 2 is about the offensive line, the depth and the strength. I hear people talking about it's one of the top offensive lines in the country, and that how long has it been since we've been able to say that?
Tell me.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
It predates me, and I've been there nearly 10 years.
They've got great talent, and they've got even some depth, which they haven't had in a while. Number 3, you've kind of mentioned also just the overall offensive firepower on this team. I know we're breaking in some younger running backs who don't have a lot of experience, but for whatever reason, if Quinn has to carry a lot more on his shoulders, the offensive firepower in the receiving room, the tight end room is. I don't think it's been this good since. man, I don't think it was this good when Cole or Vince Young had their receiving cores. I mean, this is just electric all the way across the board. I don't think it's been this good since Chris Sims was throwing to his 3 freshmen, and eventually sophomores and juniors. I mean, that we got some offensive firepower. Number 4, speaking of freshmen, the other thing I think we got that gets me excited is, for the first time in a long time, we've got some real impactful freshmen coming in very key spots, whether it's DeAndre Moore, Anthony Hill, Baxter, Maalik Muhammad. We all know about Cook, Derek Williams at the safety position. I mean, we got some dudes coming in as freshmen that are going to be taking playing time from some upperclassmen. I'm convinced by the end of the year, some of these freshmen are going to be starters. So that's another positive. And then, the last thing I have on my list is, for the first time this year, we had it a little bit, but next year we really have it in spades, is we have NFL talent littered all over our starting 22 with, potentially 3 first-round draft picks when you look at Quinn and Worthy and Jatavian Sanders. And then, you add in Watts and A.D. Mitchell and Ford. I mean, we've got NFL talent littered all over our starting 22. And when Catch talks about, you have to have NFL talent to compete and really win at the highest college level, we've got it this year. And I feel confident. We should not be having to ask how many 5 stars does it take to beat, X team. We've got it's how many NFL players do we have to beat TCU this year? Because it's stacked. It's stacked. So that's kind of where I'm at on my top 5 and why I'm so optimistic.
There's a couple of things that stood out to me, and I'll get El Presidente's thoughts in a second, but and a lot of really good lists. I don't think, Tom G, we probably talk enough about the injury to Quinn, because sometimes, you don't want to quote unquote make an excuse for a guy, but sometimes that an excuse is more of an explanation for a lot of different things. And he did come back within a few weeks, and I think he did try to give it the old college try. But I think what I was told was that he probably wasn't really getting close to 100%. Probably in towards maybe to like bowl game practices, so I think it's one of those things that some people give Quinn, for lack of a better term, shit for some of the games that he struggled in, but if you don't factor in that he's not at 100% in those games, it's almost unfair to him to say, like, man, this guy struggled in certain games. He wasn't this and that. Oh, well, they had to run the ball in the Baylor game in the 4th quarter because blah, 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 blah. They can't throw the ball. And it's like, well, yeah, but you do realize, like, this guy was freaking hurt like hell. Like, we saw the injury versus Bama. Like, we saw what happened and what that arm did. Like, I think we all felt it and said, oh, my God, that hurt. So I think you were 100% right. In pointing that thing out as well. The offensive line depth is really, I think, really awesome. You're right. When we talk about offensive line depth, it's where has it been? It been non-existent. We have been in the world. I don't want to. No, I was about to name names, but there's been some guys on this offensive line over the last several years where you just said to yourself, like, I don't even know why this guy is starting. Like, it shouldn't be. And now, you've got a guy like Cam Williams who's on the outside looking in. And I think we all would think to ourselves, Cam Williams is a future NFL player. Like, that guy, he's got the build. Like, someone's going to draft that guy. And right now he's having to, like, wait his turn. I thought those things, really stood out to me. I hear El Presidente's thoughts before we get into his list, but I thought those were really good observations, Tom G. What do you think, El Presidente?
Well, for my 5, my wife's
no, that's just fine. Give me your reaction to Tom's list.
Oh, Tom's list. I thought Tom was spot on that. with the offensive line, the talent on this roster, and these are some of mine too that he has gone into. But, his main point with the NFL talent on this roster, what potentially could be drafted. I know we have a franchise left tackle, And when's the last time we had a franchise offensive lineman at the University of Texas? And that would be Leonard Davis. The last time someone got drafted in the top 10 offensive line-wise, I think, is Leonard Davis. I know we talk about Connor Williams and things like that, but he was the last, draft offensive lineman drafted from Texas. But, for a franchise player that we have at left tackle, that is the guy that we're going to be talking about next year. Is like, what a quick 3 years that was. What a special 3 years that was with him on campus. And, I can't wait. I was crazy. We were watching the NFL draft, and as many as those guys that he went against, and he didn't give up any sacks to. It's just that, I heard that as like money. I mean, that is just, money. But I agree with Tom G 100%. The amount of talent on this roster, which is going to be my number 3. I didn't really get into the offensive line. I still have questions there, not necessarily of doubt. Tons of talent there, just consistently play at a championship level where we didn't play at last year. But those were young kids, a true freshman at right guard, a true freshman at left tackle, and we were getting above average play from those guys. And look, game 2, here comes Alabama rolling in with all those defensive studs, and those guys held up.
Yeah. Another area that about Quinn's game we didn't highlight enough, but I think it's going to be a difference maker in real spots this year, is his running. I think a healthy Quinn, I think he's going to run more, and we got to see flashes of it last year. The dude's not a statue.
No,
I think he's going to make some. I think he's going to make some good running plays when nothing's there. Also, which we're going to need.
Yeah, I think the one thing as it relates to that, one of the things I reported a little bit earlier as far as Quinn is, and when I say earlier, I mean earlier this year, was that he did realize he needs to use his feet a little bit more. So that entails 2 things. One, getting outside of the pocket, which is what you're talking about, and then 2, moving around the pocket a little bit more. That's one of the things that he's worked on, an area of his game that he's been trying to improve in an area that they've been. So footwork, you're 100% right, Tom. You'll see that. Now, he's not going to be Kyler Murray as far as like dual threat. So let's not get crazy, right? But as far as being, or even Sam Ehlinger to that degree, which you don't want him taking those kind of hits anyway. But is he going to be a guy that actually, uses that thing and it stretches the field like it's his advantage? Absolutely. First of all, people don't realize, and I've seen these things, Quinn Ewers was actually a really good basketball player for a number of years. He played for like a really good elite basketball AAU team. Like Quinn Ewers he's got footwork. We know about him as this football player, but he's got the footwork. He's a very, very good athlete. Just make sure I put that out there. All right, El Presidente.
And I want to add one thing to y'all's Quinn's deal. And Amar, I text you during the draft. And remember, we were talking, if those guys that went in the first 35 picks, now those are some great quarterbacks. I do not want anybody to think I am disrespecting any of them, because those guys got what they deserved and they great athletes. But, the Florida quarterback didn't just light it up last year. Great athlete, great legs, the same thing with the Kentucky quarterback. If Quinn has a somewhat above average year, he's going to be in that. I know the Minnesota Vikings need a quarterback, and that might be that spot the following year that Quinn has to decide, and what is his people around him telling him.
Yep. Vikings need. I go through a list of people need a quarterback. Vikings need a quarterback. Green Bay needs a quarterback. Tampa Bay needs a quarterback. There's going to be a lot of teams that are going to, there's a long list of teams that are going to tell them that are going to need a quarterback. And they would tell themselves, you know what? I'll take a chance on that guy as opposed and see if he can develop into something as opposed to whatever else is around. So, El Presidente, give us your 5.
I'm going to give you about 3 because we've hit base on 2. So number 5 for me was Sark did a great job of shopping this year, and he wasn't shopping at Food Lion. He wasn't shopping at Costco. This guy finally made it into HEB and really did a great job of portal shopping this year. I don't know what happened. I guess we got rid of his coupons and what he was using on some of the portal players that we have gotten before. I don't know if he liked Food Saver or what, but this year, potentially, he has added 5 starters to the roster. And I'm going to go through them real quick. Our punting game was dead last in the Big 12 last year. God bless Daniel Trujillo. He was playing right up the street for me at Fort Worth, Texas Wesleyan. They found him August 3rd on YouTube. They were so daggum worried about their punting game, they went and got an NAIA punter. It was just god awful. But one of these pieces that I'm talking about, they go and they get Ryan Soundboard from Stanford, which is a huge upgrade for our punting game that, again, was dead last. And I was reading up a little bit on him. Led Power 5 football with 20 kicks inside the 20 that didn't go in a touchback. And I'm sitting there, if I'm thinking I'm PK, I'm like, field position. We've got a punter that if he's going to kick it from the 50, we've got a chance to pin our opposition inside the 20 consistently. How many times did we look up last year? We kicked the ball out of the end zone. Just a frustrating thing, just another weapon that we added. Another thing in the portal we added a real boundary receiver, something that we have not had. Now, Nayor was supposed to be that spot and he went down, but traditionally our boundary receiver has been a blocking, screen, bubble type receiver, not a depth threat. And we arguably went and got the best deep ball receiver that was out there. And matter of fact, he has 2 rings and he's played in big games. Another thing in the portal that we did, we went and got Trill Carter from Minnesota. Is that a big flashy name? Absolutely not. Is it giving us depth at a position we need? Absolutely it is, because we have a lot of talent there, but we have a lot of unproven talent. Until Collins gets going, until Neil Broughton gets going, we had to bring in, if you're going to rotate 3, we have a solid 3. But one of the biggest things that I think that Sark, and there is a lot of criticism towards Sark in him not winning more than 8 to 9 games a year, but I really believe in what he did this year, portal shopping. He went and got 2 more DBs. Now, I know he has a lot of talent in that room, but he also went and got some proven playmakers because, Texas was near at the bottom last of the Big 12 also in giving up yards per game in the passing game. So for me, his portal shopping at HEB for prime beef, he got it. He didn't go to Food Saver. He didn't go to where Tom likes at Dirty Kroger's. He went really shopping this year in the portal.
You know what, El Presidente? So you're not from the Deep South, because if you was from the Deep South, you would have said he was shopping at Piggly Wiggly. And I didn't hear you say Piggly Wiggly. And if you said Piggly Wiggly, you and I would have been talking the same language. But you went Kroger. I was like, Kroger.
Yeah, I've been to Piggly Wiggly. There's a Piggly Wiggly in Sherman, Texas. I've been. That's where I shopped in college.
I know there's a Piggly Wiggly somewhere. You've got good points. When I looked it up, one of the things for our show today, one of the things is Texas was ranked 9th in creating turnovers, ninth in the Big 12 last season, with only 14. To your point, El Presidente, this is a good one. Kansas State was ranked first. They had 24 turnovers. TCU was ranked second. They had 22 turnovers. Ball game. You know what I'm saying? Ball game.
Yep.
That's ball game. We're done. We're
100%.
done. Mic drop. Right there. Texas is ranked 9th with 14. K-State 24. TCU 22. Which teams were in the Big 12 championship game? So, in other words, to your point, El Presidente, and it's a great one, being able to have guys who can create turnovers, that's going to be key, because that's the battle that Texas is going to have to win, going forward. I thought that was really good, observation. And of course, everything you say about the bottom receiver, makes a lot of sense. And really, that punter stat is really good. Can you give me that stat again, as far as where it was down? That was actually underrated, amazing stat.
Only Power 5 punter to punt inside the 20-yard line 20 times and not have a touchback. That was downed.
Yeah. I mean, being
field position. And it was funny when I was reading the write-up on his numbers doesn't make he sexy, but he's a smart kid from Stanford, a Stanford grad, but he's playing smart with the football, and that will go along with our tight end special teams coach creatively, because they're going to play situational football, especially on the special teams, to for field position and that advantage.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen what a good punter can do,
yes.
right? I mean,
yes.
A good punter could be the MVP of a bowl game when it's all said and done. So,
the only thing we had versus Missouri.
there is that. Tom G, what did you think? Does anything stand out about El Presidente's listening? Because I do have another question for you.
Yeah, I'm gonna, and I put this in the chat. Love the way out of the box thinking and find of the punter in that statistic.
Yeah.
Because our punting was atrocious last year, and the field position and everything else, I mean, it's going to be a major upgrade. So excellent point there. The other one, the portal shopping, by the way, I do shop at HEB, not Kroger. So let's get that straight. No, but you're right. I mean, Sark put down the food stamps and he's shopping for better stuff. So, I still wish we could have, and maybe it's not too late to still get maybe another edge or LB, but what he has brought in, I haven't shook my head and going, no, seriously. I mean, these are just like scrubs, like what we brought in recently, other than Watson Nair, and the linebacker from last year was pretty good. But I really liked where you went with yours, and I thought while we had some overlap, I thought if you look at the accumulation of all of them, I thought it was a good, solid foundational list.
So, one of the questions that we were posed on I think it was the Modcast this week, and I want to kind of get to you guys, is it's early. Okay. So the question I'm going to ask, I'm asking, realizing that it's May. I had to look it up. It's May the 10th. So I'm not going to hold you to this, and I'll allow you to change it. But we're sitting here on May the 10th. You guys have made great cases on reasons to be optimistic. If I had to say to you, El Presidente, Tom G, give me a win total that you feel comfortable with. Not like I'm reaching for the moon, but a win total that you say to yourself, okay, I this is what I'm expecting. And maybe that's a better question. The win total that you're expecting, from this season based off of what you know. Again, something changes in training camp and something crazy happens and there's a, whatever, then fine. But right now, El Presidente, what's the win total? What's that record that you say to yourself, this seems absolutely right, achievable? I'm riding this into the season.
If Quinn Ewers stays healthy, and that's I got to hold that to that, and we win at Bama, I am sticking with 12-0. Those are my two, because the only other landmines that I texted you before was in Fort Worth and in Ames, Iowa, back-to-back weekends. Other than that, they don't leave home.
All right, I need an answer though. You gave me a hypothetical of the season. Yeah, that's fine. I need a number.
12-0.
You're right now 12-0.
12-0 right now.
Okay, Tom G, are you that bold?
No.
Are you that bold?
No. I'm gonna go 11-2 with a Big 12 championship in there. So that's what your 11th is, right? And a CFP.
So you're saying 10-2 in the regular season.
10-2 in the regular season, win the championship, and in the CFP.
Okay, so there will be those from the outside, aka Jeff Ketchum, who will look at you guys and say, Steve Sarkisian has only won 9 games. That's the highest total he's ever had. Some will tell you Steve Sarkisian, he hasn't won a bowl game since he has been here. Steve Sarkisian, 13-12 over 2 seasons. So I want you to tell me, when people come back to you and say, what in the hell, 12-0 CFP, El Presidente, I'll start with you. When someone says that you smoking on that good, what will be your response?
And I put, and this is going to be ultimately comes down to my biggest optimism for the season, and it will jump into number 1 for me, is I believe in Sark. I really do. I understand Ketch is a number guy, and I understand he is going to live and die off of analytics. And, he's that guy that we all grew up with, that sit in the corner of the room. He wasn't even paying attention. Teacher would ask a question, and here's Ketch in the back of the corner of the room, and he always had the damn answer. And you look over to him, and he's over there in his pencil box drawing his little pictures. I mean, that's going to be Ketch, Mr. Negativity, always having the right answer. But for me, what I admire, Ketch goes back to these numbers, and I have his Washington numbers in front of me. And when I see he took over a piss-poor, awful Washington team, and he holds that against Sark so damn bad for his Washington years. Well, before he got to Washington 2-9, they were 0-12. They were 4-9. They were 5-7. And then in 2005, they were 2-9. And in 2004, they were 1-10. It's not like he inherited this great wealth of a program. He went to the Pacific Northwest at that time and inherited a dumpster fire. Would we agree with that? Yes. A dumpster fire. First year had more wins. His 5 wins that he had in his first year was more than they had in 4 years. But no one ever talks about that. No one ever says, hey, that was a good thing. So his first year there in 2009, he has 5 wins compared to 2008, 0 wins, 2007, 4 wins, 2006, 5 wins. But he doesn't get any credit for that. The second year in the Pac-10, 2010 goes 7-6. Third year in the Pac-10 at the time, but 12 now, 7-6. Fourth year, 7-6. And then his last year goes 9-4. Springboards into the USC job. What happened at USC? He's going into a situation where all the Reggie Bush scandals, reduction of scholarships, he walks into another crap situation. You know, we had another tarmac firing with USC and what they did to Lane Kiffin. So I do not think, I really don't think Ketch really goes back and looks at it. I totally disagree. I get he's a numbers guy, but I want to disagree with him because he took on one of the hardest jobs in America at that time was Washington, and B, he walked into a USC job that was in the midst of recruiting scandals from the Reggie Bush thing that Coach O was trying to get the job. He runs the table with his team and he quits, and here comes Sark, and he inherits that team. So for me, I don't put a lot of stock in Ketch in what he says against Sarkisian in his record.
As your phone says, Siri says she doesn't understand. And then, okay, so Tom G, there's going to be someone that says to you, CFP, what are you drinking on? You know, the person that doesn't have any drink in his cup right now. But someone's going to say, what are you drinking on? Why are you out there? And my response, your response is going to be what?
My response was to be, look, first off, El Presidente, I got to hand it to you. That was some hell of some homework you did on Sark's coaching record.
It's really good, actually.
You know, I think, you know, like everyone else, Sark has matured. He's learned, and he's a smart dude. I'm not holding his past against what his future can be. So that's one thing I'm not doing. But when we talk about the CFP, if you go back and look at the 4 CFP teams and go look at the amount of NFL talent they had starting on that team, we are somewhere between probably 10 and 12 draft picks next year. I think we'd all agree probably right in that range.
Potential draft picks, absolutely.
Yeah. Yes. That is right in line with what every team in the CFP had. And so if you go look and believe that experience and NFL talent wins the day, we will probably be a top 5 team in the country with the number of most draft picks in the NFL draft this year. No doubt.
We have a good possibility of that. You're exactly right.
So let me the last question I'll ask you, and I know we're dwelling in the realm of the world of possibilities and optimism. What's your cutoff? Like, what would you settle for? Right, El Presidente, you sell homes, right? Yep. You sell homes. You're going to list it for a certain price, and you're trying to get that price. But you'll tell your client, hey, at the end of the day, hey, if we got this, it's still a good offer. Still a good offer. Wasn't what we've wanted, but it's still a good offer. It's still above market value. What would you, if you don't get 12-0, and as a El Presidente, you may have to settle for something. Mm-hmm. What would you settle for?
I'm going to settle for the Vegas odds, and I'm going to go 10 wins, and I'm going to put my money where my mouth is right before the season. I'm going to go to Vegas. I'm going to buy us that ticket. I already told you I'm going to put money down on this, and we're going to go over 10 wins. And I'm going to find the prop bet, and I'm going to make Blake find me that prop bet of playing in the Big 12 championship and winning the Big 12 championship. So my win total is 10. No matter what, we're going to be over 10 wins and winning the Big 12 championship. Those are going to be my 2 bets that when I come back on the show in August, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is right there.
Take that, Mattress Mac. How about that?
That damn guy cost me this weekend. I just bet on that horse, and then he comes and bet on that damn horse.
All right. Tom G, what about you?
Yeah, the floor for me, that from what's acceptable, it would be 10 wins with the Big 12 championship. If it's not that, to me, this season is a failure.
All right, let's do a super chat and let's go into some parting shots real quick. So we did have a super chat that came in a little bit early. I did not. Darwin, my dude who's been in the chat, very active. So I love you, Darwin. It's always good to see you. Glad you're here. Darwin saying, I got an off-topic question. Who's your breakout player for this year on offense, and who's your breakout player on defense? El Presidente, you're not in the hardest, so give me your breakout player on offense and your breakout player on defense. Breakout.
With my defensive pick, and I've shared it with, when we had a talk a couple of weeks ago, my breakout player is going to be Maurice Blackwell of Arlington Martin. He's a local kid. He's 2.3 miles away from me. He is playing the Sam linebacker, and he's the starting Sam linebacker right now. We got to see a little bit of him on the field last year in key situational downs when he came in on the passing downs. I think he's going to have a phenomenal year at linebacker. And David Benda needs to look over his shoulder, because I truly believe the District 8-6A Defensive Player of the Year and unanimous MVP is going to put his mark on the Texas defense this year. I am buying a lot of stock on Maurice Blackwell, the local kid here from Arlington. And for me, and I cannot wait till this happens, because I remember when Catch, Mr. Numbers, Mr. Analytics, when they go, what the hell is the staff doing taking Savion Red? And Savion Red is going to be my offensive breakout player. The 3-star talent from Grand Prairie. The Grand Prairie Gophers only had one offer from SMU, and look what Jeff Banks found. He found a diamond in the rough, and that is who I am having stock in, those two players, two local kids that played in the same district that were both unanimously chosen by their coaches as the MVP of the districts. A defensive player and an offensive player.
Ooh, I love that. What do you got, Tom G? You has a chance to think about that.
Yeah, on defense, I got Mr. Westlake himself, Ethan Burke. I think he's going to wreak havoc on the edge. I think he's going. His success is going to push Sorrells to even be better than what he would probably be without Burke on the other side. I think Ethan Burke is going to have, I would guess, 7+ sacks this year. That's how good I think he's going to be this year. Offensive side, wow. The first two names that came to mind on the offense, which, it's kind of cheating, which is, Quinn's going to be a hell of a breakout player considering how he was last year. And so is Worthy, I believe. But not taking the easy way out on those two. I'm going to go with an offensive line player, and I'm going to go with Cam Williams. I think he's going to be the breakout.
Oh, that's
player.
a good one. I was going to
one.
put that one. I was going to take that one. I love it.
I think he's taking somebody's job, and he ain't giving it back.
That's a fantastic choice. And by the way, so that was my offensive one. My defensive one, obviously, was going to be Byron Murphy on a defensive line. That's going to be my breakout candidate. I think he has that Jalen Ford in him. You can tell me he's 6'1", and you can tell me he's undersized, and I can tell you that the dude is strong. I can tell you that the dude goes in beast mode, and I can tell you that the guy's been dominating all, not only in winter conditioning, in spring, and everyone expects that to continue to occur. So Byron Murphy, for me, is the defensive guy, and that's the guy I'm looking forward to seeing the most, and I'm the guy I'm standing on the table. Look, we had a very good, positive conversation. I'm really excited about this. I feel like it was a really, really excellent show, one that we needed. El Presidente, take us to church, send us home, give us a parting shot. Tom G, give us a parting shot, and I'll go ahead and wrap it up after that.
I believe in Sark. I believe in this roster. I believe in what he has built. If you looked at the inherited class, his transition class with Sanders, Worthy, Maurice Blackwell, Sorrell, Connors, Keelan Robinson. That was his transition class. Then he goes 5-7, and he picks up the number 4 class in the nation. He picks up Watts. He picks up Nayor. He picks up Ewers, Kelvin Banks, DJ Campbell, Maalik Murphy, Cam Williams, Burke, Hudson, Savion Red. Then he pulls an 8-5, and then he picks up in 2023 Arch Manning, Anthony Hill, CJ Baxter, Cook, Galvin Holmes, Jalen Clayton. If you cannot see what the Cook is doing and the recipes that he's doing, like my main man Omar says, Shark is cooking with some grease right now. The roster has never been any better than I can remember, probably since Mac Brown was here. And we could say, well, Charlie Strong left a good roster. We haven't had talent as to what Tom G was saying, what Omar you have said, and the potential draft choices that we might have next year in the NFL draft. Shark is cooking with some grease. I believe in him as a CEO. I think he is one of the top 5 play callers in college football. He's got to take it to church. He's got to win this year. It's Big 12 championship or bust. That is it for me.
Tom G, what you thinking?
Yeah, so I thought the theme was great because it's not just about being positive, but it's about believing that the results can be as positive as what we're talking about. And I firmly believe it. When you look, and El Presidente said this, when you look at the NFL talent and the experience on our roster, it's as good as it's been since the Mac Brown days. On top of that, we've got the same quarterback starting for the first time in 4 years. That is going to pay huge dividends. And so, and just from an overall game management and everything else, I have confidence that Sark is continuing to grow and develop as a play caller / head coach. And I think the future is bright. I mean, now's the time to buy the stock. The future is as bright. And what's bright about it is it's not just bright this year, but he's got the cupboard's not bare. I mean, he's got this thing, ready for a bear in hibernation. We are in great, great shape for not just this year, but the future and beyond.
How I'll close it is this, Longhorn fans, it's okay to be optimistic. I understand that sometimes, people will keep telling you, oh, don't do it. Don't go down that road. Don't do it. It's happened before. It's happened. You're bound for failure again. But sometimes you do have to be optimistic. El Presidente and myself are 2 examples of that. Failed marriages everywhere. But at some point, you have to be optimistic.
Yep.
At some point, you have to believe one of them is going to work out. See, it's all about perspective, because you can either say, damn, they failed at that thing, or they're hopeless romantics. And at the end of the day, it's probably more hopeless romantics than anything else. And so, sure, yes, Sarkisian was 5-7 in year 1. Yeah, they won 8 games last season. Yeah, okay, they lost to Washington. But at some point, you have to also take into account that sometimes when it comes to building and trying to get to a certain thing, there will be bumps in the road. And sometimes there will be unexpected things that happen. Again, El Presidente builds homes for a living. He does this thing. El Presidente will tell you, you can build a home, and then at some point, and I say builds home, he does homes for a living. But El Presidente, they'll tell you, hey, you want to build a home? Sounds great. They can tell you it's going to be ready on October 1st. And guess what's going to happen? It's going to rain. We're going to have there's parts that aren't going to come in. There's going to be things that are missing. Guys aren't going to show up for work. And so, yeah, they told you the house is going to be ready on October 1st. And guess what? The shit ain't ready till November. Maybe December, okay? But he tells you that going in, so you know. And sure, there are certain things that happen with Sarkisian's tenure that you said to yourself, damn, I can't believe that happened. But at the end of the day, eventually, you got to believe that house is going to get built. And you have to believe that Sarkisian has been laying a foundation to build a home that is actually going to be built. And there's a lot of things that we have seen over the last couple of years, the things that we've been talking about today, that makes us believe that this will be the year that we all go into that home, the home of a championship. So for my main man, El Presidente, my main man, Tom G, and for my main man, Blake, who's producing behind the scenes, as always, you guys have a fantastic night. And remember what I always say, leave each day like it was your last, because one day it will be, and we shall talk soon.